right into my starting five picks for this weekend in college football. First up, I'm taking USC on the road to beat Notre Dame.
Another Notre Dame touchdown. Adams makes it 48 points.
Penn State breaks through and gets the W over Michigan. So Penn State over Michigan.
Barkley off and running. Saquon Barkley. Say bye-bye. Touchdown Penn State.
I'm going to take Northwestern in the upset to beat Iowa. That's my upset special for the week. Northwestern over Iowa.
Iowa's ensuing possession. Need to score. Facing a 4th and 3. You go to your good hands guy.
I'm going to take Florida State also to beat Louisville.
Fumbled it, put it on the ground, and a cataclysmic, catastrophic turnover for Blackman and the Seminoles. That'll bring it to your knees.
They don't do this a lot, so pulling it out, trying to read that in, is an issue for Black.
So I'm taking Boise State to beat the Cowboys of Wyoming in that one.
On the swing pass. Nifty move towards the end zone. Touchdown.
Those are my 5-star picks of the week. Good morning, Purdue University. I should say good afternoon, and welcome here to Next Point Wins. I am your host, Matthew Geely. Got a fun show dialed up for us today. Thanks, everybody, for stopping in. Take off your shoes and stay a while. We got a full hour of sports talk and conversation coming at you right now. Had some, I wouldn't call it breaking news, but we had some news develop this morning as far as Purdue football and Purdue athletics. Also, excited to announce, joining us in the turntable at about 12:30 this afternoon is going to be Brett Douglas. Brett Douglas, the student voice of Purdue soccer on the radio. He's going to stop by, and we actually filmed the interview yesterday, so I'll play that for you around 12:30. He got to stop by the turntable, and we chatted about Purdue soccer, Purdue basketball, football, and he even threw in an unsportsmanlike conduct. So thanks for Brett for stopping by, and looking forward to that interview. I think everybody's going to really enjoy that. So stick around. 12:30, we'll air that. If you can't stay till 12:30, excuse me. If you can't stay till 12:30, check out the podcast. It'll be posted on my Twitter, Facebook. You can also subscribe to Next Point Wins on YouTube. That's where all the podcasts can be found. We have all the archives there, so you can go all the way back to Season 1 and check out how much this show has grown since then. Thank you to everybody who's listening live here on the Purdue's campus and in the Tuned In app on WCCR Purdue. Also, for anybody who's listening later today on Spotify, thanks for checking us out. Excited to have you with us because we have a fun show planned for today. And speaking of the archives on YouTube, the first topic of the day, and it's a little bit of breaking news we had this morning, a new article was released by, I'm going to get the exact name of the writer because I think it's extremely important. But basically, new article this morning came out, kind of still going in depth on the whole, I don't know what you call it, but it was basically in response to the locker room situation that happened here at Purdue back when Michigan came and faced us. Somebody talked to the parents of the quarterback of Michigan State who was injured on the play, and they all had something to say about the incident that happened. Purdue, I've gotten about 3 or 4 emails this morning and a couple of DMs and tweets asking me to comment and to explain once again what happened and what's Purdue's stance on this. Well, if you go back on YouTube 2 episodes ago, we went really in depth. It was Season 2, Episode 5 is where you will find our take on my take and the take of Purdue Athletics on what happened with that unfortunate injury to their quarterback and the way it was all handled. As far as an update, I'm sticking to my original comment, though. Purdue Athletics did a great job in their statement when it first came out on what the situation was and how it was handled. So I recommend everybody go and read that statement again. It still holds true. There's no reason to revise it. It's all the same, and that's that. So you can go and find the article. I'm not gonna. I changed my mind. I'm not gonna promote it. You can find it with ease. So if you want to go read it, go for it. Personally, I see some holes in what they're saying, but that's my personal opinion on it. And because of that, and because I feel like that some things are left out, I'm not going to comment any further on that. So a little bit of it. I thought this story was over. I'm going to be honest. I thought that we had all moved on. Obviously, not quite yet, which is fine. This will come and go just like I did last time. And once again, Purdue Athletics and the university as a whole, and every college university should hold player safety and the safety and concern of the student athletes number one. Students and student athletes, everybody. They come first, and that's no different here at Purdue. And I think we do everything by the book. So there's nothing really more to comment on that. Had some football last night. If you checked out the NFL Thursday night game, you are in the minority. I sure didn't watch a single second of it. I flipped it on. I didn't even watch a play. I just saw the score. Baltimore won that game 40-0 last night over Miami and the Cutler-less Dolphins. Jay Cutler out with those broken ribs. Matt Moore steps in, and it was funny. He came in last game after Cutler got hurt, and the place erupted in applause. I'm not sure they're cheering anymore. I think they probably wish they had Jay Cutler back because Miami looked like a mess last night. Joe Flacco was knocked out of that game. Nasty hit he took as sliding, trying to get down to the ground. He took a shot. So you got that, and then the other headline of the day is Ndamukong Suh, defensive tackle for the Dolphins, kind of putting Baltimore's quarterback in a chokehold, the backup quarterback in a chokehold late in the game. Not really sure what that's all about. I'm sure he will be reprimanded, probably with definitely a fine, but since it's Suh, it'll probably be a suspension because this is definitely not the first time Baltimore quarterback Ryan Mallett was the backup who came in relief for Joe Flacco. So Ndamukong Suh shoves the quarterback after the whistle, and then basically payback is chokeholding him, I guess. It's not going to go over well. It's kind of disgusting to see, really. Also, some news and notes. Last night we had some NBA action, and Boston beat Milwaukee on the road 96-89. Bulls beat the Hawks at home 91-86. Memphis by 5 over the Mavericks. Clippers 104, Portland 103. I didn't get a chance to check the box score. Let's take a look and see what Biggie did in that game as I'm looking at it live with you all. Looks like he played 5 minutes, 1 rebound, and that's it. So not a whole lot of time for Biggie last night. 1 turnover and 1 personal foul for Caleb Swanigan. So 5 minutes of action, not a whole lot to speak of there. And last but not least, the Pelicans 114, Sacramento Kings 106. So there are some of your high scores from the NBA last night. Got a good World Series Game 3 tonight. If you haven't checked out the series yet, I strongly recommend it. It's been really, really entertaining. Astros, they got good pitching in Game 1, great pitching in Game 2, came out with a win in Game 2 as they beat Rich Hill and the LA Dodgers thanks to a couple late home runs and then the extra inning home run by Jose Altuve. And the Stros are going back home tied 1-1, and they're dangerous. They're a dangerous home team, and it was so important for them to steal one on the road. And they gave Clayton Kershaw and the Dodgers everything they wanted in Game 1. Dallas Keuchel, their Astros ace, looked really good. He made like 2 mistakes, one of them to Justin Turner, and if you make a mistake to Justin Turner, it's going to leave the ballpark, and that's exactly what happened. So Dodgers snuck away with Game 1, and then Astros come back with Justin Verlander, who's been incredible in the postseason. Exactly what you would expect out of a veteran and an ace. He was an ace for the Tigers for so long, and he had a couple bumps along the way as of late, but kind of I think going to a playoff contender and a new franchise kind of rejuvenated him, and he is worth every penny they paid to get him, and whatever they gave up to get him, I don't even remember who was in the trade, but if you're the Astros, you definitely got the better end of the deal because he is helping you immensely right now in the playoffs. So, yeah, you got Game 3 tonight, 8:20 p.m. on Fox. Lance McCullers Jr. throwing for the Astros. Yu Darvish for the Dodgers. And you got that. So, we got baseball tonight. Got a couple NBA games, nothing really to speak of. A couple college football games. I know we got high school football tonight. Second round of sectional play here in Indiana. Big college, high school news. Purdue gets a commitment from one of the top linemen of their class. A local kid signed. He verbally committed to Purdue, so that was an exciting little bit of development last week. And Boilermakers getting ready for football this weekend. It's going to be cold out there. It's a 7:30 start tomorrow night. Students against Nebraska. Boilermakers coming off of a loss at Rutgers, looking to rebound. Let me give you a little rundown on what I thought happened in that Rutgers game. I watched it all live, and it was hard to watch. It was a sloppy game, no doubt about it. Couldn't get the running game going consistently. When we ran the ball, it was effective, but consistently we did not run the ball. And we went to the air with both quarterbacks and had some tough missed throws, had some tough drop balls. And it's just one of those games where stuff like that happens and you let Rutgers hang around and they beat you. A nice final drive by David Blau to get us down the field and an incredible catch in the corner of the end zone by Anthony Mahungu. But unable to get the 2-point conversion, and that's that. Boilermakers lose at Rutgers. That's a game that Purdue was favored to win, Purdue needed to win, and Purdue didn't win. So now we get to see how this team rebounds coming off of their first game that they should have won. And it'll be interesting to see what team comes out Saturday night. I expect a lot of energy, a lot of emotion. I expect the defense to keep playing tough. Sounds like Tario Fuller should be back at running back. I can't confirm that, but I think that there's a chance that he plays, and if he does, that will be helpful to the running game. And overall, as a team, it should be interesting to see how. I mean, there's no reason not to get up for this game. It's another game that you're favored to win. You should win against a Nebraska team who can be tough. I think they're tougher than Rutgers. Their offense is pretty good. Probably Coach Brom said earlier in the week, one of the better quarterbacks we will face. It's our first test since Lamar Jackson against a true passer, a guy who can really throw the ball and really likes to throw it around. So that'll be interesting to see how our defense responds. And then on the other side, their defense is by far the weakness of their team. So it's a great chance for our offense to bounce back, get some confidence, and get rolling. Got this game, then you got next week at home again against Illinois, and then you hit the road for 2. So these are 2 home games that you need to get, and it should be exciting to see after a full day of partying and tailgating and students. Hopefully everybody shows up to this game. I know it's going to be cold. Their game time kick temperature is probably going to be in the mid-30s, lower 30s, so it's going to be chilly. But, if we pack that place, we can keep each other warm. I mean, Ross Age should be full. This team, they deserve it. They're bowl chasing, and they have every opportunity in the world to get a decent bowl berth, and it's gonna mean that we need to beat Nebraska, we need to beat Illinois, we need to beat IU at home. Those are our 3 home games, and you protect home turf, and then you go on the road and you take care of Northwestern, and then you give Iowa everything they want, and you're in a bowl and you're in a nice bowl. And this is a Purdue team going into the year that was not the expectation. Making a bowl game was not where this team, I'm sure in behind closed doors, that locker room, absolutely, their goal is to make a bowl game, as it should be every year. But when you look at the grand scheme of things, Coach Brom's coming in and he's trying to install his stamp on this team, and he's done a fantastic job, and his assistants have done a fantastic job of changing the culture of this team. And I think they're already above expectations, which is good. And now, since we're above those expectations, it's important to keep taking steps forward. He said in his press conference that they took 2 steps back. It's the first game that he's seen a regression, and I agree with him. So now it's important to take 2 steps forward and keep moving forward towards the overall goal of being a better football team all around and building something that's really, really strong here at Purdue. And that should give any Purdue football fan an excitement. Busy day on Saturday. You also have wrestling as they do their annual Rossade practice on the concourse by the pavilion in the open end of the end zone. They'll have mats out there and they'll be wrestling open to fans to come check it out. And then if you need to get warm halfway through the day, 3:30 in Mackey, Purdue scrimmage, men's basketball against Indiana State. Tickets on sale for students and fans. All proceeds go towards hurricane relief, so a nice opportunity to raise some money for a good cause and see the Boilermakers in action for the first time against a different opponent. So should be a lot of people on campus. Should be a lot of fun. I'll be out tailgating and obviously working the game. So everybody should get out there. It's very important. Keys to the game for Purdue, in my opinion, are first and foremost establish the run. It's going to be cold. It's going to be windy, and it's important to establish the run early. It takes pressure off of the quarterbacks, and both quarterbacks are going to play. I have every confidence in the world that's going to be the case. I'm not sure who's going to start. I don't even have an itch towards one or the other. But no matter which one starts, there's a great chance both of them are going to get in the game. Now, it's important that, it bothers me because when they're both playing well or like when they're both meshing off each other, it's amazing and everybody's excited. But once we have a game where somebody struggles, obviously you have people jumping off the bandwagon, jumping off the wagon, maybe not a bandwagon yet, but jumping off the wagon saying, this doesn't work, this is stupid. Well, you can't be all for it and then as soon as something goes wrong, change. And I know that's how sports fans are. We are very, we have short-term memory loss. We only care about the now. We don't care about what happened in the past. But we have to keep context and keep a proper, a proper mindset when it comes to how this is going to go. So we need to establish the run early. It's going to take pressure off both quarterbacks, and we're gonna play well. The defense has shown up. The defense has played like a top defense in the Big Ten all year, and I expect that to continue. Secondary will be tested a little bit more this weekend. It'll be exciting to see how they respond because I think it's going to be positive. So you got Purdue against Nebraska coming at you Saturday night, 7:30. A lot of good games on the schedule. I'll have my 5-star picks coming up after the interview with Brett Douglas. And if you're just joining us on the show, Purdue student radio, it's not even student. Purdue Radio's Brett Douglas, he's a senior here at Purdue, so he is a student. He works in the athletic office with myself. He'll be joining us in about 12 minutes from now, and we're going to talk about Purdue soccer, which kind of give you a heads up on if you didn't make it out Wednesday night to Folk Field, the Boilermakers women's soccer team clinched a berth to the Big Ten tournament, first time since 2008. So we'll have full recap of that as I ask him questions about the team and kind of some of the history behind what's going on with that, because it's been a historic run for this team this year. So catch that, Brett Douglas, in about 11 minutes from now here on WCCR Purdue in the Tuned In app. My name is Matthew Geely. This is Next Point Wins. Let's quickly jump into what to expect from World Series game tonight. I think that I didn't give you my predictions going into it, but I like, now that it's 1-1 and the Astros stole one on the road, I like the Astros in 6. I think they cough up one of these games at home and win the other 2, and then they win Game 6 at LA to finish it off. Dodgers are a really good team. I think Astros have a better bullpen and a better overall team. So I'm going to take the Astros tonight, and then I'm going to say they lose tomorrow night. And, I'll take the Astros tonight, they lose tomorrow, and then they win Game 5, and then they win Game 6. So that's my opinion on that. That game can be seen on Fox tonight at 8:20. As I mentioned earlier, a lot of high school football tonight. I know area teams like West Lafayette are in action, and then back where I'm from, a full slate of games in Fort Wayne, Indiana. SAC schools taking the field, and good luck to all players and coaches. Nothing better than high school football, especially when it comes to tournament and you get into sectional play, and every week you start knocking off teams and you get closer and closer to that big goal of winning that blue ring here in Indiana. High school football is a big deal. It's no high school basketball, but when you get a chance to go down to Lucas Oil Stadium and play for a state title, it's pretty special. I was lucky to have the opportunity to do that my sophomore year, and it's a special moment. So I know there's a lot of kids out there with big dreams. Go out and ball out tonight because it's important. Represent your school well. Speaking of representing people, bad look from owner in the NFL, and that's going to be the topic of one of my unsportsmanlike conducts. So that'll be coming up also after Brett's interview. So we got a lot to get to. So let's transition real quick before we get to Brett, as he is just now. We taped the interview yesterday, so he's pretty much locked in and ready to roll. But I just want to get through a couple of the top stories before we get into his interview. Aaron Rodgers came on Conan O'Brien's show last night and talked about Minnesota linebacker Anthony Barr after that hit that knocked Aaron Rodgers out of the game and broke his collarbone. And I guess there was you could see the cameras caught Rodgers yelling back at what looked to be obviously the Vikings, and it was Anthony Barr he was yelling at, the guy who hit him. There was definitely an exchange there. Then the TV went away, but now Rodgers went on Conan O'Brien's show last night during Green Bay's bye week, just after he finished surgery where they put 12 screws into his collarbone. And he talked about how there were some inappropriate gestures that were exchanged between Anthony Barr and himself, and how NFL didn't respond to it. And, this is all after the fact, and Aaron Rodgers was obviously upset after it happened. And Anthony Barr had this quote to say after the game: "He wasn't happy, and I understand. He probably realized that he was injured at the time and wasn't happy. I probably would have had the same reaction. It's fine." Packers coach Mike McCarthy responded with the hit as being an illegal act and unnecessary. So I guess this story also isn't going away, as Aaron Rodgers he's always been known to come out and be outspoken about how he feels, and he is not very pleased with Anthony Barr on that hit. At the time that the hit happened, I didn't think it was all that gruesome. He kind of landed at the wrong spot, and it was a big hit, obviously, but I didn't think it was unnecessary by any stretch of the words. It's hard to pull up when you're a team like that. Also, some notes in the MLB: Cubs fire. They kind of have an entire line change of coaches on Thursday, as they dismissed pitching coach Chris Bosio, hitting coach John Malley, and third base coach Gary Jones. Geez, Cubs, let's not overreact. Holy crap. So 3 of their bigger coaches are now gone. Bosio, the pitching coach, has already been replaced with Jim Hickey. He worked under Joe Madden and the Tampa Bay Rays back in the day. He's been with the Rays since Joe Madden left and recently had been let go by the Rays, and so he will be joining the team. Cubs also hired former Red Sox hitting coach Chili Davis. They really like to keep it inside house. You bring in a Tampa Bay guy, Joe Madden, and then you bring in a Boston guy, which stems back to Theo Epstein, and they also bring in Red Sox third base coach Brian Butterfield. So quickly, that's a quick turnaround. They obviously had all 3 of these guys in mind before they fired who they had. So you bring in 2 Red Sox guys and a Rays guy, and hopefully, looks like Joe Madden quoted saying it's about something else being able to add something different or new. Oh, it's about someone else being able to add something different and new. So I guess they're trying just to mix it up in Chicago after making it to their 3rd NLCS and winning a World Series last year. So a little bit of a roster turnover as far as the coaching staff in Chicago. Also worth note, Chicago Bears signed a wide receiver from the San Diego Chargers on Wednesday. Dontrell Inman signed by the Bears. Looks like staying in the NFC North. Vikings wide receiver Stephon Diggs with a groin is questionable against the Browns. Not sure if he plays or not. And obviously, as we remember from last year, suspended running back Marshawn Lynch. Kind of a cool story. He went out and practiced with his old high school team. And speaking of high school teams, I saw an article, and I thought it was really, really interesting about a high school who, since we're on the topic of high school football, it was actually retweeted by country music radio host Bobby Bones, if you're familiar with the Bobby Bones Show. And he had this really cool retweet, and I saw it, and I didn't quite get to it, but we're gonna kind of dive into this together because the headline caught my attention as something that was really, really cool. But it's actually Bobby Bones' hometown. Like I said, he's one of the most prestigious radio hosts in the country, and when it comes to country music, his show is number one, and it's played everywhere, and he gets country music stars on it all the time. So if you're into country music, you can check it out. Also here in the Tuned In app or on his website and Twitter page, Bobby Bones. That's a free plug there for Bobby Bones, but really, really good show. It's always funny, and he's kind of a comedian, and he sings his own songs, and he has a lot of fun. He has a nice outlook on life. But it looks like his hometown of Mountain Pine, they hadn't made the playoffs since 2010. So in where Bobby Bones is from, not every team gets to play postseason football. You have to qualify just to make it. And over the last 6 seasons, they've won 3 games. And this year, their 7-game winning streak, and it's thanks to a rule that's only been used a few times in the past 40 years. They lost their opening game 35-0 to a local team, and then after that, they've won 7 straight, and they're heading to the playoffs. The change they made after the first game was a very talented player became eligible thanks to a little-known rule. He got married to a student in the district and moved in with her parents. So this is like one of those public school situations where you can only go to school in the district that you live in. And I guess this is insane. So he married a student who went to the school and moved in with their parents. So now he's officially registered in that district and able to play on their team. All of those involved ensure that this marriage didn't happen because of the team, but it worked out to help the team in the end. I don't know if I believe that. So that's all there is here. But this is from Morgan Husselman on the Bobby Bones homepage. So you can probably find this story. But so this high school kid marries another high school student, moves in with their family, and joins the team. And he must be the real deal because he has turned this team around by himself. And for a football team to have one player do that, high school level, it's more possible, but overall, that's a crazy story. I saw that the other day, and I thought that you might want to see it. Also, worth note, Justin Timberlake announced as the halftime Super Bowl show this year. He made that announcement on Jimmy Fallon last week, so it'll be. I think that's a great move. I'm a big Justin Timberlake fan. I think he's a good performer, and when it comes to these halftime shows, that's the most important. You have to have a lot of hits. You have to be a great performer, and I think he's both. It'll be interesting to see. It's always like you're as a halftime performer, you're remembered by who you bring on with you. It'll be interesting to see. Like, it seems like the ones that really go over well are the performers who bring on equally or even bigger celebrities than themselves because it's like a surprise. And then you have the ones who don't bring out anybody and they stick to themselves. And while some of them can work out, most of the time it's a little bit of a disappointment. It'll be interesting to see which direction Justin Timberlake goes with that. I think I read an article that you have to pay to be a halftime show performer. Like, you don't get paid, you pay to do it. I think it's just because of all the publicity and free press you get in return for it that's no longer free, I guess. So an interesting development there for Justin Timberlake. All right, it's officially 12:30, so I think it's time to bring in Brett Douglas. This interview was taped yesterday. For all those who are just joining us, he's a student here at Purdue, and he's the voice of Purdue soccer on the radio. He also works in the athletic office with me, so he gets kind of the inside scoop just like I do on everything that happens Purdue. And we had a lot of fun sitting down with him yesterday, and I thank Brett for being on the show. So here he is, Brett Douglas, interview on Next Point Wins. Hello, Purdue students, and welcome to Next Point Wins. My name is Matthew Julie, and I am joined here in the turntable. Special guest for us today here on the show. We have Brett Douglas. Brett Douglas, the voice of Purdue Soccer Radio here at Purdue University. He also works in the athletic communications department with myself, so he knows the ins and outs just like I do of Purdue athletics, and we're excited to have you here, Brett. Thanks for joining us.
Not a problem. Great to be here, Matt.
So Wednesday night, Brett, Purdue Soccer clinched their first ever berth to the not first ever, first since 2008. Is that correct?
2008. Yep.
Yeah, they beat Maryland on Wednesday night, 2-0. Maddie Williams with both of those goals, and let's just start there with Maddie Williams because one of the better stories, historical runs in Purdue soccer history. 2 goals Wednesday night, 14 on the season. What have you seen from her, and maybe just give an insight on her story for people who don't know?
Exactly. The Maddie Williams story is just absolutely fantastic for the Purdue soccer team and Purdue athletics in general. It's a kind of redemption story. She tore her ACL last season. It was going to be her senior year, and she went down early in the season, even before the season, and it's just a redemption story. She's back, 14 goals, a Purdue season record, and she has eclipsed over 100 points in her career. She's the all-time points leader in Purdue soccer history, and it's just absolutely incredible what she's overcome and to where she's at now, leading the Boilermakers into the postseason for the first time since 2008, like you mentioned.
And if you look at this Purdue soccer team, goal scoring is something that they needed coming into the year. If you look at their team last year, they lost a lot of close games, 1-0 games, 1-2 games. And to have somebody like her come in and be an instant spark on offense has been fun to watch. And if you look past Maddie Williams, Brett, what have you seen as far as a fun player to watch on this Boilermaker team as they go into tournament on Sunday?
Well, she's quite the superstar of the team, and like you said, not a lot of goals last year. They scored 16 all season, and Maddie Williams has 14 this year to kind of give your viewers and yourself a picture of that, how far this team has come. They won 4 games all last year, and they eclipsed 10 last night, and it's just very impressive. And then going forward, this team has a lot of superstars in the making. It's a young team. They start 6 freshmen. In goal, we saw Katie Luce, who was just she did everything she could do at the beginning of the season. She helped Purdue off to a 4-0-1 record to start the season, and was a primary star in that back for Purdue. And now they went to senior to get back on track after they dropped 4 straight in Erica Yan, and she's been absolutely incredible the past 2 games. She faced 8 shots last night, clean sheet as Purdue won 2-0, and then she had 9 saves at number 9 in the country, Penn State, and really kept Purdue around in that game. She's somebody to look forward to. And then going forward, it's going to be the freshmen, Hannah Melchiori, Sarah Clark, Maya Lambert, all just superstars that Drew Roth has really put a lot of chips in their bag, and he really likes those 3 going forward. And watching Purdue soccer, you also see Kylie Haas, and you can't go out without mentioning her because she's just a staple in that midfield for Purdue. And we always joke on broadcast when we're calling the game that she wins literally every single header in the game. Last night she headed a ball that went just wide of the goal, and then there was a goal kick, and then she ran all the way back to midfield and won that header. So it's just a lot of young talent here for Purdue soccer, and there's a lot to look forward to.
It's interesting you mentioned Kylie Haas. I just noticed last night, I mean, it was 30 degrees out there, and that ball was kicked from the goalie, and every time, you're right, she was going up and getting it, and every time she hit that ball, you could just tell it kind of stung her a little bit, because when it's that cold and that ball's coming down like that, it's going to hurt. But she's one of those players for Coach Drew Roth that she'll do whatever's asked of her, and she doesn't mind getting in those gritty areas of the field.
Absolutely.
So when you look at calling a broadcast on the radio for soccer, kind of give an insight into people who don't know the business. How much time on average would you say that you have to put in work before you even go on a broadcast?
It's quite a lot of work, like you said, and usually you get the roster like 3 days before the visiting team, and you get the game notes, and you read those, and you go over pronunciations, which is probably one of the most difficult parts. There are a lot of names that take a little bit of practice and repetition. And with that, so 2-3 days is what you're looking at just practicing, and then the day of, you know, you and I both have class, and we're student announcers, and the only thing you can really think of is the game. And so like yesterday sitting in class, I was just like, I got to focus.
Little
I
antsy,
got to
right?
get my mindset right for tonight.
Yeah.
And it's usually 3, 4, 5 hours before the game. You're really prepping and writing intros, especially for radio, with not a lot of content for there's no viewership.
Sure.
So you're basically explaining what's happening as it were to a blind person.
Yep.
And to try and depict that and have your listener visualize that takes a lot of work.
Yeah, it's kind of like being an artist with your words. At the beginning, I've always noticed I called radio for softball and baseball last year, and at the beginning, you forget that they can't see, even though you know your radio, and you just have to look at the finer details in the broadcast, like where the ball's at, always repeating time and score. Stuff that for you might seem repetitive, to a listener who might just be tuning in is necessary in order to get into the game like you are.
Right, and you're like you said, time and score is such a key part, and you kind of sound like a broken record. You think, and then you like listen to it back, and you're like, wow, I probably should have said it more than I actually did.
Sure. Would you say that that's been the biggest challenge for you in calling a game on the radio, or is there something else that jumps out there like, I made a mistake there, but I had to learn from it?
I think one of the hardest parts is the pronunciations and getting that down, and then not using the same language as you would. So, for instance, if there's a series and you're calling a soccer game, the ball's moving from left to right, and then you're trying to describe like where the ball is on the pitch, but you also need to focus on like what's occurring.
Yep.
And another tough part, I will say, is the fact that soccer never stops, really. The only breakage you get is either before the game, halftime, or on a throw-in or goal kick.
Yep.
But it's always moving. And I called my first solo game a week ago, and it was much different than being the color analyst, because where you're just kind of throwing your 2 cents in here and there, with play-by-play, you're doing every single thing.
Yeah.
And there's not a lot of time to give your analysis when the ball is right back in play. And that's probably the most difficult part, I'd say.
So transitioning now out of soccer and into other Purdue athletics and sports, we got basketball starting to gear up. We got practices starting, announced of the scrimmage this Saturday against Indiana State. When you look at this Boilermaker men's basketball team, give me your one player to watch out for that's going to make a huge impact on the team this year, because your impact player, Caleb Swanigan, is no longer there.
Exactly, and I think the Boilermakers are going to have to go through the Edwards clan, and Edwards and Edwards, that law firm of theirs, is going to have to be very key. I think Carson's out for a breakout year. And Purdue's kind of doubted. They're sitting at 21, reigning Big Ten champs, and there's 3 Big Ten teams ahead of them in the coaches' poll.
Yep.
And Purdue, I mean, I feel like they like to be doubted, and it's going to be big for them to get off to a good start. They have quality opponents in Butler and Louisville, like right in the midst of November and December, so they're going to get challenged early, and how they face that will be key. I saw on Twitter just before I came on that Vince Edwards was listed as the number 5 best swing forward, and these guys see that stuff.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
they definitely want to prove that wrong, and I think they really will. This team has a lot of talent, and even though you lose such a staple in Caleb Swanigan, pushing forward, I mean, Isaac Haas isn't that bad of a replacement.
Yep, exactly. And then the biggest sporting event coming up for Purdue is this weekend home game against Nebraska. That's Saturday night at 7:30 start time. You have a special connection with a Boilermaker on the team, Race Johnson, special teams phenom. He plays kick return, kickoff. He had the scooped up, blocked punt against Wisconsin that he unfortunately got injured on the play and couldn't take it to the house. But a guy who, like we say with like a Kylie Haas, he'll do whatever it takes to get a win. He's a gritty guy who just goes out there and does whatever Coach Braum asks of him. Since you were roommates with him and best friends with him, I was hoping maybe you could give me one fact about Race that only a roommate of his would know.
That's a great question, first of all. And, Race is such a gritty guy. He's one of those guys that's first in, last out.
Yep.
And doesn't get a lot of PT to show for it. But when he does, he makes the most of it. And we saw that against Wisconsin. Unfortunately, he was unable to take that to the house,
Yep.
and his hamstring that's been bothering him all season kind of gave out. But he's just a fun guy to be around and very positive, and I'm trying to summarize this for your listeners, as he's just so it's tough to put words behind who he actually is.
Yeah.
Because he's such a genuine guy. And then to get to your question of facts that
Only
about
a roommate-
race that
yeah.
not many would know. This might be something a lot of people know, is that he just has like a countdown clock of when Christmas is at
Really?
all times. Like, you'll be like, hey, Race, when's Christmas? And it'll be like 62 days, 45 minutes, and
Okay, so
20
big Christmas
seconds.
guy.
Yeah, big Christmas guy. The tree's always up.
Okay.
And Christmas music was even playing in June and July this
Oh, man.
summer when I was living with him. And then I know you have a segment called Unsportsmanlike Conduct,
Yep.
and this will probably fall under that.
Ooh, well, let's break up some audio then, because we
Absolutely.
got a little unsportsmanlike conduct here. All right, unsportsmanlike conduct for Race Johnson, the brother of Olympic medalist Steele Johnson. Here's unsportsmanlike conduct.
And now, an unsportsmanlike conduct.
Personal foul number 15 on sportsmanlike conduct.
That's a horrible call!
All right, Brett, unsportsmanlike conduct. What do you got for me?
All right. Something people don't know about Race that you only know if you're living with him is that Race, instead of putting what you and I would put like marinara or meat sauce or Alfredo sauce on our pasta,
Sure.
Race goes with the A1 sauce, the A1 steak sauce, on top of his pasta, just douses it.
Oh, that's disgusting.
And it's just, I mean,
Like every time, it's his go-to.
it's his go-to.
Ooh,
And it's
Race.
I hate to put him on blast like this, but
Love it.
But that needs to be put out to the world, because that's just not human.
That's good. Yeah, we're all about making people better on this show, and hopefully this maybe brings to light a serious pasta problem there for Race. So as we mentioned, 7:30 start time for the game against Nebraska on Saturday night. Can you give me a key to the game? Normally, sports shows do like keys to the game for the teams. I'm not really about that here. Can you give me a key to the game for tailgating for the students here on campus? What do they have to get done in order to be ready for Nebraska Saturday night?
Absolutely. So with that 7:30 start time, it's a little bit different, but Breakfast Club's still happening.
Yep.
Go to the Cactus, go to where else, go to Brothers, go to Harry's.
Love it.
Wake up early, dress up. It is almost Halloween.
Yeah.
Next Tuesday's Halloween, so costumes will be at their best.
Oh,
And, it'll be quite the sight to see this weekend, and it's a tough wake up, but the kids
It's
normally-
rewarding, huh?
Yeah, they tend to get it done regardless of what time the game is and what time the bar is open.
Brett here is a senior at Purdue, so he's a veteran when it comes to this kind of stuff. And since you've been to your fair share of tailgates, can you give me your best tailgate food you've ever had? What's your go-to tailgate food?
This was not on the script, Geely, but
I know. Yeah, we're going off the board here.
I'm going to work with you. I love buffalo chicken dip
Ooh.
of any sort.
Good call.
Love that. Love some guacamole on a good Saturday fall morning.
Love it.
It's just
Never too early for some guac.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It just kind of goes with everything, and other than that,
Yeah.
that kind of
That's two
sums
solid.
it up.
That's-
Yeah.
two solid picks. Last question for you here before I let you go. Biggest key to the game for the football team, and I want your score prediction of the game.
I love it. So, it's a bounce back game.
Yep.
It's time for the Boilers to get back on track. A tough loss against Rutgers, and really we beat ourselves. That was one of the sloppiest football games I've ever seen. Not just Purdue, just in football in general.
Exactly.
It was, a lot of punts, a lot of miscues, a lot of drops, and I think we're really out to solve those. I mean, I listened to Coach Brahm's presser on Monday, and I think we're going to get back on track. And the biggest key is to not beat ourselves, really. I think that if we get a quarterback, and whoever that is,
Yep.
to get fluidity of our offense back. That's the key, because really our offense, we didn't score a touchdown until like 20 seconds left in that game, and it's really important for us to get on the board early and find that end zone. We've been struggling in the red zone where we were so hot at the beginning of the year. I think finding that will be such a key point for the Boilers, and I think we take this game. And Matt, I'm going to give you a little score prediction here.
Here we go.
We're going to win it 35-20.
I like that. 35-20, so just over 2 touchdowns. And, yeah, you mentioned it. I mean, this is the first game for people who are watching the growth of this team. We've never seen Coach Braum in a bounce-back game after a game they should have won. So it'll be interesting to see, as you said, how this team comes out and responds after getting hit in the mouth last weekend at Rutgers. Brett, thanks for joining us here on the show. Hopefully we'll have you back on during basketball season, and it was a pleasure.
Exactly. I just want to say something before I leave. It's been a pleasure to be on this show, and it's not something anybody and everybody can do, and you're doing big things, and it's not every day that a younger kid inspires you. And you're 2 years younger than me, and you do inspire me, and I'm really proud of what you're doing. And it's Secure the Bag season.
Absolutely.
And it's about perfecting your craft, and you're really doing that. And then, now, and always, and on top soon.
All right. Well, thank you, Brett. It means a lot to me. Thanks for joining us. This has been Brett Douglas, Matt Geely, Next Point Wins. Catch the entire podcast on YouTube. We'll be back right after this. Thanks for listening. So there is Brett Douglas. Thanks again, Brett, for joining us. It was a pleasure having you. Great guy, sports guy for sure. He's definitely shown me the ropes around the athletic communications office and the athletic department altogether. Definitely been a mentor to me, and kind words he said there at the end. It truly does mean a lot for him to take the time out of his day to come join us here on Next Point Wins. I hope you enjoyed that interview as much as I did, because I think that he did really an incredible job kind of explaining what we go through on a daily basis to get ready for broadcasts. And it's easy to make fun of the people on TV. It's easy to critique everything they do, because it's so much easier at home to sit there and see mistakes than it is to do it in person. And he said it, I think, correctly. It's not for everybody, and I think I still don't know if it's for me yet or not, and I know he doesn't know either, but it's definitely something that we enjoy, we have fun doing. The way he said, in class on game days, he'll sit there and he'll get butterflies in his stomach. I'm the same way. It brings me back to maybe, I think the reason why a lot of sports guys like doing this broadcasting thing is because it keeps you in the game, it keeps you involved, and it brought me back to the days of high school football and back when I played baseball. And even as a little kid, you wake up on those mornings when you have a game, and there's just a different feeling inside of you and a different level of excitement for what's to come. And it's the same way with these broadcasts, and there's no better feeling than when one's over too, because after you put in all that hard work to come through and finish a broadcast, it's a feeling unlike any other, and it's impossible to explain, and he did a good job trying to explain it. But thanks again to Brett for coming on. I like his score prediction. I'm going to go Purdue over Nebraska. I'm going to take us 38-21 this tomorrow. Hopefully one of us is correct. Getting a W in that column for Purdue is most important, but really good job for Brett, and I'm sure we'll hear a lot more from him, and I'm going to definitely try to get him back on during hoop season, because he's as big as a Purdue basketball fan as anybody I know, and all-around sports guy. So we'll have Brett back on, and hopefully we can keep giving you guys some of these interviews. There's a lot of people around the office and around really the country who I'd like to have on the show that I've been able to gain a relationship with, and this is a PA to anybody who wants to come on the show. I know I have quite a few listeners from the office and from other departments around the country. Just shoot me a text message, email, or whatever, and let's get you on the show, because I think it's a lot of fun. I know you guys get sick and tired of hearing my voice. I know I get sick and tired of talking. Not really. I could talk all day, especially when it's just me sitting in here and Brainy Bunch in the back, not really paying any bit of attention to me. It's like I'm on an island, but I enjoy it. So I can keep talking, but we can also let's try to to broaden our horizons and get some more people in here. Brett did a great job with that unsportsmanlike conduct. I thought that was hilarious. I'm going to give you a couple more of my unsportsmanlike conducts that I came up with. They're not as good as his, but they are what I got for today. So here are the other two unsportsmanlike conducts.
Personal foul, number 15, unsportsmanlike conduct.
That's a horrible call!
First one comes to us from Skip Bayless. Skip Bayless used to be on ESPN's First Take. Now he does his show, Skip and Shannon or whatever, on FS1. Skip's not one of my favorites. He's nowhere near the top of my list of people that I look up to or look to for any type of sports news. But he always has really nice takes, and he could probably be on an unsportsmanlike conduct every single week because he tweets out something ridiculous that's not true, kind of consistently. So this one was tweeted out this week, and shout out to Brett Douglas, our guest today. He pointed me in the direction of this tweet and showed me it, and he was right. This is definitely unsportsmanlike conduct worthy. So Skip's tweet, and this is in regards to Lonzo Ball, point guard for the Lakers, son of LeVar Ball. And we talked about Lonzo on the show multiple times, but here's Skip's tweet, and I quote, "No rookie in sports history has had a higher degree of difficulty than Lonzo Ball, thanks to his father." At first glance, I thought to myself, okay, yeah, that kind of makes sense. He definitely has a difficult road because his father is so in the picture and doesn't know how to keep his mouth shut. So Lonzo Ball definitely has a tough path. That being said, in order to make a skip tweet, he has to throw in some ridiculous, over-exaggerated statement, and that statement in the tweet was, "No rookie in sports history." All right, well, that's dramatic. I get it. It gets clicks. It's called clickbait. That's what we say here in the industry. Obviously, people are going to click on that. They're going to respond. They're going to call him a loser and tell him he's wrong, and that's exactly what he wants. He puts out tweets like this to get a reaction. Well, one of those reactions was from Seth Davis, a college hoops expert for CBS. He's always on CBS during March Madness as a commentator and an analysis, and he had the tweet back, my favorite. So he tweets back, and I quote, "Jackie Robinson says hi." And that's exactly the type of response that you should put to a Skip tweet. Because for Skip to say that no rookie in sports history has had a higher degree of difficulty than Lonzo Ball, yeah, I would agree with Seth Davis. I think Jackie Robinson probably gives Lonzo a run for his money, and I'm sure there's about 500 rookies who also have had a more difficult stretch than Lonzo. Lonzo's is difficult, but for sure not to the level of Jackie Robinson and the civil rights and all that he had to go through. If you've seen 42 or any documentary about Jackie Robinson, it doesn't take a genius to know that he went through something that there's very little people in the history of this country who could have withstood what he withstood. And because of that, he is truly an American hero, and especially in the baseball world, breaking down barriers to get into the league. So Skip Bayless, unsportsmanlike conduct, 1 for being yourself and 2 for your tweets. So there's one of them. And my other one, and this one, talk about wrong use of words. Houston Texans owner Bob McNair had to issue a public apology this morning because during last week's meetings with a group of owners and players, they all met and talked about ongoing protests during the national anthem. And Bob McNair, the Houston Texans owner, said this, and I quote, "We can't have the inmates running the prison." Not a good choice of words there by Bob McNair, calling NFL players inmates, even though he's trying to make a comparison and I guess an analogy, horrible analogy, really, really, really dark path he's taken us down. So Bob McNair, unsportsmanlike conduct, you can't be saying stuff like that. He had to issue an apology, and I'm sure there's going to be more coming off of this story, but not a good look for the Texans owner. All right, those are my 2 unsportsmanlike conducts. Thanks again to Brett for his about Race Johnson. Put the steak sauce down. Are you nuts? Oh, that was hilarious. I can't believe it. And let's transition here. We're running out of show time, so I got to get in my starting 5 picks of the weekend in college football. A couple of really good, all 5 of them feature ranked opponents, and all of them have a really good ranked matchup. So we have number 11 Oklahoma State at number 22 West Virginia. I'm going to take West Virginia in that one. It's going to be a high-scoring game. Take the over if you're a bet man. Personally, I'm not, but if you do, I would recommend the over. I don't know what it's at. I don't really care. I don't really follow that, but I'm sure it's something high. But you should. West Virginia doesn't stop anybody, and Oklahoma State scores a lot of points. West Virginia scores a lot of points, so I'm going to take West Virginia in a shootout over Oklahoma State. Number 2, we have number 3 Georgia at Florida. But on paper, this looks like a game that Georgia should definitely win. But anytime you go to Florida, it's a tough game. I'm going to stick with the Dogs, and I'm going to take them at home. And my prediction is next week when the rankings come out, Georgia will be number 2 in the country. And that's a little teaser for one of my picks coming up. Number 3, number 14, NC State at number 9, Notre Dame. Notre Dame coming off of an impressive victory last weekend. I picked against them. I didn't think they stood a chance against USC. They came out and proved me way wrong. Defense looked good, offense looked good, and they're a tough team to beat at home, and they keep getting these ranked matchups at home, so I'm going to take them this time. Number 9, Notre Dame, I'll take you at home over NC State. And I think that if Notre Dame wins out, they make the playoff. I don't think Notre Dame wins out. We'll see. Number 4 on my starting 5 picks is number 4 TCU against number 4 TCU against 25th ranked Iowa State. Another top Big 12 matchup against ranked opponents. The Big 12 conference is really interesting. They have quality games each and every week because they have so many teams ranked. But this seems to happen almost every year where you have the Big 12 and they have a bunch of teams who are consistently pretty good. They beat up on each other. They all end up being ranked at the end of the year, and then they don't do well in bowl games. There's no secret that the Big 10 has consistently outplayed the Big 12 in bowl games, and I don't know. I would put it on style of play. I think that the Big 10 style of play just kind of carries over, especially when you go to some of these bowl sites where it's cold and windy and rainy and it's late in the year. I don't know if the Big 12 correctly transitions into those bowl games. But anyways, another top matchup for TCU at number 25 Iowa State. I'm going to take the top higher ranked TCU to win that one on the road. It's my second road, so I'm 2-2, 2 home picks, 2 road picks, and last but not least, the biggest game on the slate and one of the bigger games in the Big Ten this year. It's going to be number 2 Penn State at number 6 Ohio State. Penn State at home last weekend beat up on Michigan, beat them up pretty good. Saquon Barkley, one of the better running backs, as you heard in the show open. Once again, thanks to the Brainy Bunch and Dirty Randy and the boys for the audio. Dirty Randy with the new guitar solo, and I guess it's not guitar solo, but the instrumental. That's the word I'm looking for to open up the show. We'll play that again here, closing it out. But talented man with a talented group behind him. So thank you, Dirty Randy. Anyways, Penn State whooped on Michigan last week, so now they hit the road and they head to the Horseshoe to take on Ohio State. Ohio State is really tough to beat at home, and because of that, I'm going to take Ohio State to upset Penn State at home. That's going to move Georgia into the 2 rank in the playoffs come Sunday, and Ohio State wins that one. I think JT Barrett scores enough points, and that Ohio State offense scores enough points to win it. It's going to be a fairly low-scoring game, probably a 28-24 final. We're going to go there. 28-24 final, Ohio State over Penn State at home. Number 6 knocks off number 2. And Penn State, once again, they beat Ohio State last year and still couldn't make the playoff. I don't know how far this is going to drop them. It shouldn't drop them very far because that's a tough road game. It'll be interesting to see how that happens. All right, we're out of show time. Thanks for everybody who listened this weekend. Have fun at the football game. Stay warm. Get to Ross-Ade. Cheer on the boys. If you can make it to the scrimmage, go cheer on Boiler Ball. You got wrestling on the mat. Fun day Saturday. Enjoy NFL on Sunday. We'll be back next week here on Next Point Wins. I am Matthew Geely. Thank you for everybody who tweeted and emailed in. Thanks to Brett one more time for coming on the show. And this has been another great episode of Next Point Wins, and we will see you all next week. My starting 5 picks for this weekend in college football. First up, I'm taking USC on the road to beat Notre Dame.
Another Notre Dame touchdown. Adams makes it 48 points.
Penn State breaks through and gets the W over Michigan. So Penn State over Michigan.
Barkley off and running. Saquon Barkley. Say bye-bye. Touchdown, Penn State.
I'm going to take Northwestern in the upset to beat Iowa. That's my upset special for the week. Northwestern over Iowa.
Iowa's ensuing possession need to score, facing a 4th and 3. You go to your good hands guy.
I'm going to take Florida State also to beat Louisville.
Fumbled it, put it on the ground, and a cataclysmic, catastrophic turnover for Blackman and the Seminoles. That'll bring it to your knees.
They don't do this a lot. So pulling it out, trying to read that in, is an issue for Blackman.
So I'm taking Boise State to beat the Cowboys of Wyoming in that one.
On the swing pass. Nifty move towards the end zone. Touchdown.
Those are my 5-star picks of the week.